Module number 2, finding your target market. Here's what you can expect from this module. Understand the key characteristics of customer segments, importance of understanding your target market, primary versus secondary market research, and last but not least, a lot of no-cost resources to kickstart your market research efforts. When we talk about customer segments, it's important to note there are a few characteristics that play into that. First of all, demographics. These are things we can measure, like income level, age, educational level, marital status, location. Think about things you would answer on a census report or a Census Bureau report. Those are the things we can measure, and they're easy to grab, and a lot of your market research is going to come via demographics, but it's important to note that they can also be a little bit misleading, so you don't want to lean 100% on demographic data. For example, let's say you serve 2 different zip codes primarily in your business or your family farm with your products and your services. In one zip code, it may have an average household income of $70,000. Then you move to the other zip code that's neighboring that you serve, and they also make on average $70,000 per household income. While they may look exactly the same on paper, they may have different buying motivations or different products and services that they tend to buy. Let's say one of those zip codes is more white collar, so it's more things like doctors, lawyers, business consultants, and the other zip code is more blue collar. So things like trades, running their own family farms, blue collar jobs such as that. Their buying behaviors might not be exactly the same, although the numbers on paper would suggest they buy the same products and services. You also want to think about customer behaviors. Why do people make the decisions that they make? Customer motivations, which include psychographics, are rolled up into that as well. Just really trying to measure why do people make the decisions on a day-to-day basis that they make. And last but not least, where is the market trending? You don't want to spend all of your time, your money, your motivation, your passion into something that's dying or that doesn't have a use in the market anymore. So we did hint at this in the first module. Customer motivations are psychographics, aim to explain why consumers make the buying decisions that they make. And for small businesses, it could be something as simple as customer service. We already know a lot of these answers from being consumers ourselves. Think about why in the world you would shop with a small business or a local business when Amazon and Walmart and things like that exist and they make the process easy for you. Why do people shop with small businesses? Because they do still exist. It would be things like that personal touch, maybe quality of product, or a combination of these things. And the example there, consumers being sold to versus doing their own research. So as I mentioned in the first module, as a large segment of the population, we tend to do research before making a buying decision ourselves, versus in the past, we may have preferred to be sold to. Now, if I had to distill market research on the front end into one point, it would be that you should know exactly who your target market is and what we mean when we say target market. As it says there in the first bullet point, if everyone is your target customer, your competitors are Amazon and Walmart. One of the main questions we ask at the very beginning of any small business owner's process is, who is your target market? And one of the common answers we do get is everyone. Now just think about that. As a small business owner, is it logical or does it make sense that you serve everybody? And then the answer is usually, when you start to think about it, absolutely not. You'd be spread too thin as a small business owner to serve everybody in the population. It's better as a small business owner at the very beginning to think about exactly what customer segments care most about your product or your service, cater your product or your service to them, and then broaden out from there. Because if your competitors, quite frankly, are Amazon and Walmart, do you have the infrastructure to compete with Amazon? Do you have the infrastructure to compete with Walmart? Do you have the ability to keep up with their pricing strategies? Not necessarily at the very beginning. If that's your goal, I hope we make it there someday, and we're certainly here to help you make it there. But at the very beginning, you need to tighten up that shot group a little bit and know exactly who your main customer segments are or your target market. Which segments of the customer base care most about your product or your service? There's something called Pareto's principle, and I think it does apply to small businesses here. The rule states that 80% of your sales are likely to come from 20% of your customer base. And what that really is speaking to is those loyal paying customers are the best mouthpieces for you, and they're going to be your most consistent consumers year over year. So really focus in on that 20%, that target market that you're really, really focusing on, and the rest will follow. As it says in that last bullet point, narrowing down your target market helps you effectively cater to your customers' needs. Now, how do I find my target market, and what does that even mean? Well, you're going to do market research beforehand. And there are two main segments of market research. The first being secondary market research. Think about secondary market research as information that has already been produced by outside sources. So it's information that's readily available. You can find it anywhere, whether that be a common newspaper, Wall Street Journal, for example. That's a popular market research magazine where you can get some research done on current market trends. It could be a simple Google search. It could be a company quarterly report. So if it's a publicly traded company, you can often find their annual reports or their quarterly reports published online. So secondary market research, although it sounds really fancy, it's really just information that you can get without interfacing with anybody else. You can find this information yourself. On the other hand, you have primary market research, and that's research that is conducted by directly interacting with consumers or potential consumers. So if you already have active consumers, it could be something as simple as getting some candid feedback from them on why they like your products or your services or what they would like to see different. Or it could be with a not unbiased group that has never shopped with you and is not familiar with your services or your product at all. Things like focus groups, for example. Think about a focus group. The idea behind a focus group is you get a group of unbiased individuals from different segments of society. You pitch them your product or your service. If it's a physical product, maybe you bring it to them in hand for them to try. And then they give you unbiased feedback on your product or your service. There's a lot of different ways to do this. And although it does sound very fancy and maybe a little bit out of reach, it's not impossible to do for anybody. It's just getting that candid feedback directly by interfacing with those who may buy your product or your service, or maybe they're already a customer of yours. And then also it could be, as it says there, visits to competitive locations. So think about different grocery stores. A lot of the times, grocery stores will have people that go into competition, the competitive grocery stores in the area, and they'll just be scouting things out as far as how they do things, how the store is laid out, how the customer interaction is with the staff, things of that nature, so they can take things back that they like and make it their own, or they can say, we definitely don't want to do that. This is an error we saw maybe in the way they were doing things, so we want to make sure we're not doing the same thing. There's a lot of different ways to conduct primary market research, but at the end of the day, it's market research that is conducted by directly interacting with consumers or potential consumers. The following is an example of where primary market research missed the mark and why that can be dangerous to a business. I don't know how many of you remember, this wasn't too long ago, 2005, but Microsoft Zune, or I should say 2006, the Microsoft Zune product. It was a competitor to the iPod. It was Microsoft's competitor to the iPod, launched in 2006, as it says there, 5 years after the iPod. And it actually had a lot of features at the time that the iPod did not have. It had the ability to stream radio, it had games built into it, it had a bigger screen. You could store your movies and shows directly on your Microsoft Zune on that piece of equipment there. But the problem was, as it says there, it launched 5 years after the iPod. So why would that be a problem? I mean, I'm telling you, the Zune had better specs, it had more features. So who cares if it launches 5 years after the iPod? It's a better product at a similar price point. Why wouldn't people just jump straight to the Zune? Because there's something we haven't considered yet called customer loyalty. The iPod and Apple had already created insane customer loyalty for their products and their services. People didn't want to make the switch. And Microsoft Zune just assumed, Microsoft, the company, I should say, just assumed that because they had a better product with maybe better specs, that people would just jump straight to the Zune. Well, that wasn't the case. People weren't asking for a Microsoft competitor to the iPod. They liked their iPods. And at the end of the day, the project lost about $300 million. So, while this didn't sink Microsoft itself, if you're a small business and you make this kind of error at the very beginning and you just assume you know what the customer wants and the customer needs, it could sink your product or service before you ever get going. Another popular example of this, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, this is from the 1980s, the mid 1980s, would be New Coke. So we all know Coca-Cola Classic, and we see that in the grocery stores still today. But there was, in 1985, an idea launched called New Coke, right in the middle of the wars between Coca-Cola, and Pepsi. So Coca-Cola decided we're going to come out with this new product called New Coke, and everybody's going to flock to it, and we're going to destroy Pepsi once and for all. Well, the problem was nobody was asking for a new Coke flavor, and by the time it came out, people did not like the taste of it. It had a sweeter taste that was kind of similar to Pepsi from all reports. So nobody was asking for a new Coke flavor, but Coke decided they were going to launch this new Coke flavor. And within 60 days, they had relaunched Coca-Cola Classic because there was so much uproar over this new Coke that nobody was asking for. Just think about it. You either like Coke or you like Pepsi if you're a soda drinker. If you like Coke, you're not drinking Coke for a Pepsi taste. You're drinking it for the Coca-Cola taste. So that's just one other example where they did not conduct or hastily conducted market research, assumed that they knew what the customer wanted and the customer needed, and it didn't work out for them in the end. A lot of money lost on Microsoft Zune and also New Coke. So to close out this module, I'm going to show you some free, no-cost resources that will jumpstart your market research efforts. So all of the things we've been talking about in this module, how do you actually start to put them to use? Well, one of the tools I really like to point out that's free to anybody to use is Google Trends. And you see the link there, trends.google.com. But as it says there, can provide up-to-date information on people are searching for by keyword. So to keep in line with this class, I just did a short screenshot here for an example. I searched beekeeping in the United States. And you can see once I did that search, it pulls up this map and I can click into each individual state where I'm at and see what people are searching for. What are people interested in? What area are they interested in beekeeping specifically? So I can start to see what are people searching for, because we all use Google at some point. And if they're searching for beekeeping or searching for honey, if that's my product, I can search and see, are people searching for local honey in my area? Are they searching for where can I find honey? Are they searching for local grocery stores that are related to that? There's a ton of different tools that you can drill down into these search terms on Google Trends, and it's just waiting for you to take advantage of. So please use Google Trends and start to do some market research and see what people are searching for in your area. Next up is the Census Business Builder. And there's the link right there, cbb.census.gov. And this is another completely free tool to use. I search Michigan, but you can use any state, metro, county, city, zip code that you want to use in there. You see that screenshot. I just entered Michigan under state, and it pulled up that small dashboard that you can see start to populate there. It's got a lot of the demographics that we were mentioning, as far as median household income, percent of high school degree or higher. So you can start to see all of these demographics that we were mentioning. How does it look in my specific area that I'm going to be serving? What do people care about? And then within that, there's actually a drop down that says create report. And if you hit that drop down that says create report, you can start to see in my specific area that I searched, what do people spend on different industries? So I can match up my industry, see the average household income, how much people are spending on my specific industry, and where they care about it the most. So I can start to market my products or my services to the customers that care about it. That's the idea behind all of these market research tools. Provides demographic information as well as reports on consumer spending by industry type. So this information is all out there and it's readily available, and I'm giving you the tools to put in your toolbox to go and find it. Next one, sbdcnet.org. So there's their link right there, www.sbdcnet.org. Provides a clear and concise snapshot for a given industry. Some of the things you'll find on these reports. So you get to the homepage, there's a drop down for market research reports, and you can search really any industry you want to search on there. And it has a clear and concise one-page breakdown of everything you really need to know about this industry from a snapshot view. Things like major players in the industry, customer demographics, typical startup costs you may be looking to incur, business plan templates for that specific industry, and lots of other information. So really, it's just a really, really good snapshot, so you're not going on 50 different websites or 50 different sources or asking 50 different people for information on one specific industry. It's put into one clear and concise page on sbdcnet.org. And I always mention this one. Don't forget about your local library. Local library systems often hold a lot of market research tools that would cost you maybe thousands and thousands of dollars if you went and purchased them privately. So things like market research tools that are in-depth market research tools that break down state by state exactly up-to-date information on what people are paying by industry. So what consumers are trending and what do they care about the most? All for the price of a library card, which is free, of course. And often library systems will have a digital service tab. I can't say across the country, every library system is going to have the exact same tools available, but often the larger and metropolitan library systems, you can get a digital library card and even book an appointment with a librarian to walk you through what services, what tools they provide, so they can show you exactly if they have market research tools or business services tools, how to access them and how to use them effectively for your business. So libraries exist. Please take advantage of your local library systems as well. So why are we harping on market research so much? Why is it important? As it says there, think about your market research and customer discovery as your game plan before the game kicks off. Good market research and customer discovery enables you to make decisions that are fruitful for both the business owner and the customer. So really just mitigating your risk as much as you can as a business owner. That's what market research is all about. And if you're going to bring on a business partner or seek a traditional bank loan or seek an outside investment of any kind, they're going to want to know you did your homework on the front end to mitigate their risk as well. So really digging deep into this customer research before you ever spend your hard-earned money and your hard-earned time can really pay off. The way I always like to mention it is, yes, we play the Powerball. Here's an example of, mitigating your risk as much as possible. Yes, people play the Powerball, but I wouldn't recommend playing the Powerball as your retirement strategy. It's not the most sound retirement strategy. Just like, yes, people do get lucky with running their businesses sometimes, and that is a factor in running your business. Maybe you just luck into something that people care about at the right time, and it just works for you. But mitigating your risk as much as possible is doing your homework beforehand. So, doing this good, solid market research beforehand so you understand your market as much as possible and what people care about the most close to you in your market segments and who your target customer is. So, to wrap up this module, what we talked about was the importance of understanding your target market, understanding the difference between primary and secondary market research, and why each has their own important role. You can't have one without the other. You really need to combine them into a good, solid market research strategy. And then lastly, utilize the resources shared to move kickstart your market research efforts. So really just moving your market research efforts forward as much as possible. To round out this module, I'm going to show you in practice some of those resources we talked about earlier. First up, Google Trends. You can find Google Trends at trends.google.com. But you see the homepage once I get there. It's got a lot of different suggested searches here that I can look into, but let's just use beekeeping as an example. So if I type in beekeeping into the search box here, I can see how popular beekeeping is as a search term over a specific period of time, which I can adjust here. Or if I'm interested in a specific area or a specific state, I can click into that state. So let's take Michigan, for example, and I can see specifically within Michigan what people are searching for beekeeping the most. It looks like the most popular metro area would be Traverse City, Cadillac, Michigan area. Then underneath that, I can also see when people search for beekeeping, what are they looking for specifically with beekeeping? Club, birds, insects, wasps, hummingbirds, or specifically related queries like how to keep bees away from hummingbirds, how to keep bees away, the Michigan Beekeepers Association. So while this isn't going to give you all the information you need on every topic, it could give you a good glimpse into what consumers are searching for. Next up is the Census Business Builder, cbb.census.gov. And as I mentioned, you can search by state, by metro, by county. So let's just use Michigan for an example. And once I click Michigan into that search box, I can start to see the dashboard populate of all of those demographics I may be concerned with, specifically to Michigan where I'm operating my business. Or if I want some more drilled down information specific to my area, I suggest searching by metro or county. Now, once I do that, I can get a more in-depth report as far as industry breakdowns and more demographics on what people are spending their money on in this specific area just by clicking that create report button. Now, I would note when you do that create report, it does take a little bit of bandwidth sometime. So do just give it a few seconds and don't be downloading or streaming 50 different services at once while you're trying to do this. And the last one I'm going to show you, sbdcnet.org. As I mentioned, once you get to sbdcnet.org's homepage here, you can click on the market research reports drop down here, and you can search whatever industry you're interested in. Let's just do the first one up here, auto repair business, for example. And it's going to take a second to populate here, but what it's going to do, like I mentioned, is give me a good one-page breakdown on the auto repair business. I can download it, I can view it, I can come back to it, I can save it as a favorite, however I want to go about that. But really, like I mentioned earlier, it breaks down everything you need to know about the auto repair business from a 10,000-foot overview before getting into the auto repair business. So things like average startup costs could be helpful to me, sample business plan templates, resources, associations specific to the auto repair business, employment trends, if I'm going to hire on employees, how much are they expecting to make, the job outlook, and any additional resources I might need specific to the auto repair business. So again, I would implore you, the information is out there, and now you have the tools to go and start finding this market research information.